Hello, everyone. Happy New Year to you, and thanks for joining us on the program. I am Precious Amayu. And we're starting off in Africa, where Mali and Burkina Faso have announced reciprocal travel restrictions on United States nationals following Washington's decision to impose a permanent visa ban on citizens of both countries. In separate statements, the two West African nations said the action was based on the principle of reciprocity, after the U.S. expanded its travel restrictions to include them under a new immigration policy effective today, January 1st. Mali's foreign ministry expressed regret that the decision was taken without prior consultation, disputing the security concerns cited by the U.S. and suggesting other motivations behind the move. Burkina Faso's Foreign Affairs Minister Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré described the U.S. action as inconsistent with sovereign equality and mutual respect, confirming that equivalent visa measures would now apply to American nationals. The U.S. says the expanded policy is driven by national security concerns, including identity management and visa overstay issues. Mali and Burkina Faso are among more than 20 countries affected. And despite the diplomatic fallout, both countries or both governments say they remain open to cooperation, provided it is based on mutual respect and reciprocity. Now, joining me live in the studio to discuss more on this is an African Affairs analyst, Victor High. He's not a stranger to the house. Good to have you join us.
Always a pleasure. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Once again, issues arising, but this time not driven by our own issues here, but America's visa ban on some countries, and most of them African countries. Nigeria also affected by some of the restrictions. But we're seeing that some countries are responding. Chad, Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali have responded with, an outright visa ban as well, in accordance with the principle of reciprocity. But what do you make of this and the impact it will have when you look at the flow of visitors from both countries?
Okay. In the absence of an arbiter, international arbitrator, let me use that language, for when countries are interacting among themselves, reciprocity is a very powerful tool. It is quid pro quo, do me, I do you. You understand what I'm saying? It creates respect. It creates balance in relationships. It helps countries maintain their sovereignty. It also helps countries to respect agreements and the like, whether it is trade or diplomacy and all that. You give me immunity, I give you immunity. Okay, you allow my citizens to come with free visa, allow your citizens to enter visa free, and all of that. So there is nothing wrong with what the silent states and some countries have done, because it is in line with best international practices in diplomacy. If you say that you are restricting my citizens, it's also my right to be able to do the same to you. Now, the question may be who stands to lose more at the end of the day. These are some of the things that probably people will be looking at and asking. But the truth is that it hurts both ways. Some of these countries are very critical minerals, okay? And so we cannot pretend that the restrictions, even though they didn't mention trade, but trade is done by human beings as well. Sometimes you need to physically go to do your negotiations and all of that. So it is something that is bound to affect all parties. And I think that if as many countries as have been restricted also apply this principle of reciprocity, all sides will feel it. And like I said, it will breed respect, so that I'm a sovereign nation, you're a sovereign nation. If you feel I can't come to you, also, you're also welcome to come to my place.
There has to be impact more on one side, and I'm thinking perhaps maybe Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad perhaps will feel more impact. When you also consider that they still have pockets of humanitarian workers, if not pockets, they have a lot of humanitarian workers from the U.S. in those countries. This has to have some level of impact on humanitarian assistance, doesn't it?
Well, you might argue so, but in a multipolar world such as we're in right now, there's no one country that has exclusivity to whether AIDS workers or humanitarian workers or all that anymore. No. People are able to look at, not just in the direction of the US, some have the option of looking at China. You may say those ones don't do much of humanitarian work, you know, but there are other things they do. There are Russians on the other hand, and there are other countries as well that they have good relations with. You know, sometimes if one door does not close, others don't open, other doors will not open. And so sometimes when you are enjoying a relationship with one country, it also helps countries sometimes discover what they have themselves. So yes, it might appear like, oh, humanitarian, but we have depended on the West for too long. When you say humanitarian workers, okay, don't forget there is extraction. The relationship sometimes is such that it's not even properly balanced. You know, it's very extractive. Some of these Western nations come and they take out of either from the minerals on ground or from, you know, resources that are local. So it's a balance. The relationship is sometimes even skewed one-sided in favor of the West more than these countries. If you look at the Saharan states, for instance, what they have, they're able to take care of themselves now. If Niger, for instance, lithium, what they were getting in cents from France before this cutoff, what they were getting maybe about 2 or 3 cents, they started getting about $100 and something. For the same, they were getting like 2 or 3 cents. That imbalance. Of course, with that kind of money, you can get any humanitarian thing you want. You know, you don't need to depend on anyone.
Especially because this country is most times, even in terms of population.
Yes.
They don't have as much, you know, population as we do.
No, they don't.
And so, but let's also talk about the statement from, I think it was Mali, that said the accusations or allegations of the United States saying that, look, it's about national security concerns and we're not seeing some level of transparency from these countries, doesn't reflect the situation on ground in their country. And they are talking about another kind of motivation, you know, or motive rather, you know, from the US government. Do you sense that this is beyond national security? There is something more? Okay,
let me go a step further. Mali also said that they were not consulted. I mean, you cannot shave my head behind my back. You know, the principle of natural justice presupposes that you must hear from both sides.
If the US really was taking this decision based on national security, yes, do you need to consult the other country, you know, when you're thinking of your own national security and interests?
No. See, first of all, they said there are concerns that people are not properly vetted, there are no proper identities and all that. You have an embassy on ground. So Mali is saying, if you ever had any such concerns, did you bring it to our attention? And Mali is saying no, that there was no prior discussion, nothing of that sort was raised. And in any case, I've not heard of a Malian bomber in the US, neither have I heard of a Burkina Faso bomber or shooter in the US. Permit me, I'm not saying I have access to all news, but I'm sure neither have you, because these things will be prominent. Americans kill Americans every day, it's no big news. But when one African is involved in a gang, it is that Africa that you hear about. Even if he's an African, an American of African descent, that's when they will emphasize where he comes from, even if he's a second or third generation. I mean, so as I say, where is the balance? So that argument really, I think Mali does have an argument there, so the argument is that unless there are other motives, you know, so, and of course, you're not going to, you cannot say what they say is not totally true, because of course, the West, as you know, particularly the US, France, and the rest, are not particularly happy with the fact that the Saharan states are taking their matters into their hands right now, and they are becoming truly independent for the first time in their history.
And where does this leave that, you know, that relationship? Because these countries have been pivoting so very glaringly to Russia, and with this latest tit for tat, where does this leave the relationship?
Well, okay, so the issue of pivoting depends on who your friends are. We talked about reciprocity. So if you treat me well, then I'm friends with you. But if I don't feel that I'm getting what I want from you, and under the same principle of reciprocity, I go to Kazakhstan or go to whatever country it is, Poland, and Poland treats me with respect, you know, they're my friends. And that's simply, that's at the heart of reciprocity. It creates balance, it creates respect, it creates, it balances international relations. You understand? And so if for instance, a country in the West is being aggressive or they're aggressors, you go to where you are welcomed as friends. If a country opens its arms, under the same principle of reciprocity, you embrace them, and that's what it is simply. It's not about whether, you want to choose this or that. You respond to how much people open their arms to you. If people say, look, visa-free, come to my country, I also give you visa-free, So if you say, okay, trade, we remove all tariffs, your goods can come in free, I'll do the same thing. So that's what reciprocity, so at the heart of everything is reciprocity. Both the friendships, the relationships, trade, and all of that.
Let's come to Nigeria, because we're seeing these countries where this principle is not being followed through. You find that most of them are countries with military, government. But here, the first time we had I think it was the restriction on the reversal of the 5-year visa for Nigerians. The Nigerian government also reciprocated. But now, with the latest restriction, I'm not sure if we have followed that principle of reciprocity.
No, Nigeria never respected reciprocity. When the US was giving us 2 years visa, not even the 5 years and all that, we were busy giving them 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I know, because I have clients and friends too who apply for visas. Nigeria was not reciprocating,
And the government when they began,
it was when they when they even made it 5 years and then decided to rescind it and all that. You see, Nigeria was not reciprocating. Nigeria just took it for granted. They never respected that aspect. And so when the US decided to strike back, then we suddenly woke up.
So we do not have as much leverage now as the
we don't.
Sahelian countries to say, look, let's also reciprocate in terms of the
No, because we were not respecting international, that principle of reciprocity on our own. Nigeria's visa is one of the most difficult to get. If you're an outsider, you would know. It's not as easy. It's easier to get an American visa than to get a Nigerian visa to come to Nigeria.
And we have more, so how should we, because we have more people from here going there. I don't know how many, Burkinabes and how many Malians travel to the US, but Nigerians travel.
Yes.
We travel all around the world. And
Sure.
so in terms of how we approach this with President Trump, should we do negotiation? Should we do reciprocity?
Well, you cannot do it on your own terms. If people have been giving you something and all the while you just took it for granted, it's like, I'm always giving you gifts. You don't reciprocate, and then suddenly now I decide I'm not giving you, then you want to start giving me. It will be on my own terms this time. I don't necessarily have to reciprocate. If you want to continue, continue. If you don't, you don't. And so reciprocity is also based on what you think you stand to gain from the relationship. Okay, so we are not in a position right now, we don't have the bargaining chips right now. We just take whatever they serve us the way it is, because as it is, what bargaining chips do we have? What do we have that you would say the US needs so desperately right now? What are we bargaining with? So it will have to be at their convenience. When they feel like taking it off, they take it off, but so you have to have bargaining chips in international diplomacy in order to be able to, what do you have? What are you offering? Okay, so, but the good thing is we don't want to ruffle feathers, because there are other areas where we benefit as well. So yes, that's what it is. But remember, it doesn't affect travel at the highest levels. Diplomats can still travel. You can travel with diplomatic passport, I think with official passports as well. At that level, it doesn't affect anything. So the restrictions are not at that level. So government business can still be done. Nigeria and America are still very good friends and trading partners. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's the grass that is suffering in this manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we do have to leave it there. We'll continue to follow. I mean, the Sahelian states are doing what the Sahelian states are doing. I will continue to follow those developments in that region. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to have you on. African Affairs Analyst, Victor High.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to Asia, where China is vowing some level of reunification. Well, always said that we're going to reunify Taiwan with China. Are they going to make good that threat this time? That's our next conversation. Stay with us, everyone.